A lot of people are pleasantly surprised when they come to my hometown due to the quality of milkshakes in every business in town. The local council even set up a walking tour that lets people visit each business in one go. I woke up this morning to the pink mist floating over the town hall and knew that the annual ritual was today. I checked the fridge and was annoyed with myself as the only milk I had was 2 days out of date. I cursed my own stupidity for not planning ahead better, as I knew that the ritual was coming up. I grabbed my wallet and rushed out the door while passing a sideways glance at the beautiful strawberries lining my garden. They looked perfect, and would hopefully bring out the flavor that I intended. I reached the local supermarket in record time and walked into a scene of utter chaos. Dozens of people were crowding the aisles, and I witnessed a few fights break out. The fruits and vegetables had almost been stripped clean. I had to push past a few people to reach the dairy aisle, and I almost screamed when I saw that there was no milk left. I gazed around in panic, until I spotted Mrs. Davis, who had been my English teacher when I was 11. She was 93, and looked like a small gust of wind could knock her over. She had a large carton of milk nestled amongst her other groceries. I waited until she left her cart to grab something, and snatched the milk before quickly walking away. I looked at her from the far end of the aisle, and I could see the tears flowing down her face when she realized that someone had stolen her milk. I considered giving her back the milk, but remembered that survival of the fittest was the only way to survive the ritual. I arrived home and stopped dead in my tracks as my garden had been picked clean, as there wasn't a strawberry in sight. I sat inside contemplating my options, knowing that I didn't have much time before it got dark. I knew that there was only one thing left that could work. I grabbed the butcher knife that I had gotten in case of emergencies. I steadied myself and took a few deep breaths and brought the knife down onto the chopping board. It felt like a dream as I watched as my severed fingers rolled across the counter. I placed my stumps of fingers on top of the grill and tried to stifle a scream as I cauterized the cuts. I quickly threw my fingers into a blender and added the milk. I watched in regret as the fluid in the blender went red as my fingers were torn apart. I had just finished pouring the milkshake into a glass when I heard the sounds of fingers scraping against my front door. I added a small umbrella and some marshmallows into my milkshake before making my way to the door. I carefully pulled open the door and almost vomited due to the stench of rotting meat that now assaulted my nostrils. I was careful not to lock eyes with the person standing outside, as I knew they sometimes took offense to this. I recognized him, as he used to be my milkman years ago, until he suffered a fatal heart attack while delivering milk. His milk truck rolled down a hill and smashed into a telephone pole. His face was mostly rotted away, and his neck was mostly bone and sinew. I spotted movement in his eye sockets and raised my gaze for a moment to see hundreds of maggots moving around inside. I raised the milkshake up towards him, and he reached up with his arm and grabbed it. His fingers brushed against my flesh for a second, and I fought back the urge to just turn around and run. He brought the milkshake up to his mouth and took one small drink. I watched in fascination as the liquid just poured down his clothing. He lowered the drink, and I quickly snatched it out of his hands. He gave me a bony thumbs up before turning around and began moving towards the next house on the street. I saw the bodies of the Smith boys walking into my yard, and closed the door as I knew they liked their traditions. This was going to be a long night, and I hoped that they would all enjoy my offering. The next morning, I awoke and went down to the town square to find out the gossip. I felt terrible after discovering that Mrs. Davis had been killed last night, but knew it was her own fault for not being more observant. I wondered if she would be coming to my house next year. While standing over at the cemetery, as the townspeople once again covered the graves.